Beyond us, yeah. I expected to see a new search engine to rival Google by this point, and I think it's coming. I think it's going to be possibly one of Wikia, Hakia and PowerSet. These are Wikia is the people behind Wikipedia, working on a search engine. PowerSet and Hakia are about long English language strings and using semantic web and also full sentences to actually ask questions. That sort of search phrase is very much growing. These might be three to look at that sort of eventually come through and knock Google off the perch. Not sure. I think Google will get bigger before they get knocked off. No need for web designers or developers. I sort of saw the first Web 2 applications where you could quickly, instead of having an e-commerce site developed by Paul, 4 months at 150 guineas an hour or whatever, I thought we'd use web applications to just throw something together really quickly, and people almost on a sort of lay user level would be able to use the web to get online quite quickly like that, and it's not happened. Kirsty?
Well, I've found clients actually using that and asking me to still build it for them using all those things like WordPress. They don't want to get involved, so they're now paying me to use that. I mean, Mr. Site, for example, the amount of people I know have bought off the shelf and then said, I can't do it, will you do it for me? Yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, all right.
That sort of sounds a bit like your course.
It's a quality thing, isn't it? I mean, it's similar with art. Yeah. Everybody can say, well, something's on the wall and they call it art, and you say, well, that's rubbish. And it's like, well, everything is art, it's whether it's good art. And I think it's the same with web design. It might be a website, but it's a good website.
Well, what's a good website?
To do that. I'm not a graphic designer, I'm so hard at it. Do you know what I mean? I know what they've got to do, but I can't make pretty graphics.
I got it wrong.
That's what they have happened then, haven't they? The future things have happened a little more than you thought they had. Because they were things you were hoping would happen and didn't.
I suppose so, yeah, really. How about let's have a look at the future. Everybody asks me about search, because not that I'm an SEO expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to kind of slightly follow what's going on in the industry. This is not purely my thoughts, so it could be absolutely miles out, but I think this is possibly where search is going. They're talking about pre-editing the results in search engines, so people like Alta Vista, or particularly the kind of AOLs and people like that, rather than it being purely based on an algorithm that's deciding where we're going, that we're going back to this idea of human-edited results. So something like the weather or mobile phones or something like that would be actually not necessarily completely based on an algorithm. It would be based on who they've done the deal with, who they want to put in front of you. So search engines switching back into more kind of advertising serving, possibly. There is Google looking at doing that with Ad Manager. Search engines becoming a bit clever, and these things about, they're calling them reasoning engines, look out for that phrase, that are able to just do a lot more than just look with a basic algorithm and just make some crude assumption. Actually, they're going to be much more careful and much cleverer in kind of how they work. I think Google will get more important because before it gets sort of knocked off its perch, whether it's knocked off its perch by this transparent semantic web thing or by another one, we'll have to wait and see. I think we're getting to the point where search engines, this is my opinion, are actually holding back the web, not enabling it. Why do I say that? Combination of the algorithms being actually quite crude and not that discerning, the fact that a tiny fraction of the web is only spidered by most search engines. They don't cover the majority of the web, they don't get most of the web, and possibly you not necessarily appearing based on merit. You don't necessarily appear at the top of the search engines based on merit, based on what other people think, based on how other people regard you. There is an element of that, but it's also based on quite a crude algorithm.
You can still pay to be above them.
Say again?
You can still pay to be above them.
And you can still pay to be above them, yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why Google might get knocked off the top, is that they sort of work the commercial side of it too web. There is this thing that if we get this sort of transparent web, that search engines might only be for the wild bits.
Sorry to interrupt you, but can I just say something?
Yes, go on.
Has anybody not taken their table menu out? Just the.
It doesn't matter. They'll just fill a space. We'll just put them anywhere. Can you just pass them to the front, and then we'll go and stick them anywhere for you.
You should
hand them out. You'll say it now, Dudley.
Sorted yours.
He hasn't received it yet. I don't even have one.
Can we have a slide?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay, right. That system, by the way, they're passing in bits of paper for the meal, because the restaurant assumed you were going to be very precious about who you were sitting next to, so that you wanted to sit in an exact place. So I said you didn't care, you'd sit anywhere. But okay, so those people, you're sitting anywhere. Okay, yeah, the idea about search engines just being for the kind of wild bits of the web, and the rest sort of covered by other methods. O is the new I, not E. What on earth is that about? Everything a few years ago was E this, E that, wasn't it? E-bike. I remember I owned 50 domains at one point that were E this, E cars for sale, E train timetables, you name it. I kind of bought these domains, and that E was the sort of trendy word. With Mac and people like that, it became I this, BBC's iPlayer. Why have they chosen that? Nothing to do with any other brand other than just sort of trendy at the time. If you want to go out and buy some domains, I think O is going to be the new one. O for open source, about the mashup, about where the web's going. O is going to be possibly the new I, which is the new E. If that made any sense at all. I think we're heading towards. I think the web is quickly going to turn into a sort of personalised experience. We haven't got time to get a mashup. This is quite a frightening one. Google's business model, to me, is to move increasingly towards, and all the others, is to move towards collecting very sensitive data about everything that you look at, and how you look at it, and when you look at it, and for how long. And then selling that information to other advertisers and contextually serving stuff to you, so that they'll put adverts and change the results of the search engine, both on the sponsored links and on the organic stuff, to put stuff that they think you are interested in based on your kind of history of what you've looked at on the web. And I think more and more the kind of anybody who's got a portal or a website or anything like that will be trying to collect this data on you and trying to sell it to other people. It's called behavioural targeting. It's going to be a bigger and bigger thing, really. More and more socialisation of the web space. We've talked about that already. Really. How about this? A battle between the Empire and the Rebel Alliance. Somebody mentioned who controls the web. You know, is it going to be controlled by governments? Is this sort of kind of free space, free spirit thing which has sort of pervaded the web from the start? Communities that aren't bounded by geography. Is that going to sort of win out in the long term? Not really sure about that one, but I think there's a battle coming over who kind of controls the web, and I think it's a real biggie. Final one for me really is this idea of Second Life. I am pilloried by my peers at Axis Centre by being interested in social networking and Second Life virtual community sites, yet never ever being part of them. I'm just waiting till they get better, that's all. Exactly. Facebook doesn't do what I want it to do, but once it joins up with all the other ones...